If you want to cook flank in the oven or vacio al horno and you want it to look something like this and taste absolutely incredible, follow me for a very straightforward and simple recipe and a technique that will allow you to cook vacio al horno or flank in the oven and leave your guests spellbound by the quality and the flavor of this recipe. Hi everyone and welcome back to Argentine Vacio. In today's episode we are in the kitchen because the weather isn't too great outside, and in this series of kitchen videos that I've been doing where I'm trying to bring the grill inside when the weather isn't too great, we are going to be cooking a 3.5 pound vacio, which after many discussions online I've come to the unanimous agreement that I'm going to call it flank. And in this video I'm going to be grilling the flank in the oven, and there is a few key aspects to this video that I want you to pay very close attention to if you want your vacio to be tender, tasty, and also remain moist through the whole cooking process. So follow me for some of these key techniques that I'm going to show you on this video today. Okay guys, so step number one to making sure that this vacio, this flank, is going to taste incredible is making sure that your meat, so I have a 3.5 pound piece of flank, is well rested and at room temperature before you put it in the oven. So step number one is I have preheated the oven a couple of minutes ago, but I've also left the piece of meat to remain at room temperature for at least 2 hours before it goes in the oven. Once you've got your meat ready and you've cut away any excess membrane or fat, I want you to take a brush and I want you to apply over all of the surface a thin binder or layer of olive oil. Now this surface is really going to help you once the meat goes in the oven to absorb all of the tastes. Now part of the first step of this process is we're going to be cooking this in a simple tin tray, and as you can see I have put in the tray some foil. Now why have I put aluminium foil on the base is because it's going to be 2.5 hours in the oven, and by the time this is done all of the residue and all of the vegetables will be stuck to your tin base if you haven't put in the foil before. So step number one is apply your binder and obviously prepare your tin tray. Okay guys, so we've applied the olive oil, we have our tin tray ready, and we obviously have the ingredients. The next step is to take some salt, and I have some coarse marine salt mixed with a few spices, but you could just use normal salt, and if you want you can add pepper. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a thin layer of salt on both sides of the flank. It is very important that when you're doing this that you have already applied the olive oil. If you obviously haven't applied the olive oil, it is going to not contribute for the fibers of the meat to bring out the taste through the salt. Now, the next step to this is obviously putting your vegetables in the dish. Okay guys, so for the recipe today of flank in the oven or vacio al horno, you're going to need the following ingredients. So first of all, I've got some garlic. I've cut up some of the garlic and removed the skin already. This is the garlic that we're going to put on top of the vacio or the flank. And then the garlics that I've kept here in their casing are the ones that are going to go underneath. We'll talk about that in a minute. Then next I have diced up some potato, and I've also got some carrot. And I've also diced up some red pepper and some onion. Now notice that the cubes of onion aren't too small. The reason being is because the meat is going to be in the oven for at least 2.5 hours, you don't want these to be too small, because if not they're just going to disappear. So one of the most important steps of your vacio en el horno or your flank in the oven is when you put the meat in the dish that's going to go in the oven, you have to create humidity, but you don't want your vacio to be boiling or broiling within the liquid that you're going to add in. So I have created here around 1.5 liters of stock, and basically I've added in some fresh rosemary, I've added in some standard meat stock, then I've added in some sweet pepper, some chili, some black pepper, and some salt. And then basically I've let this rest for around half an hour, and once I've let it rest, I'm then going to pour it in once I have the vegetables in the dish. Okay guys, so I prepared my tin dish. I have the foil under everything else. Obviously that's the first thing I put in. I have the vegetables ready. I'm going to put them in now along with the onion and red pepper. So I'm just going to distribute these evenly throughout the whole dish. Try to make sure they don't stay on top of each other. And then I'm going to put the red pepper on top, and the reason being is that obviously the pepper is going to disintegrate pretty quickly, so if it keeps on top it stops it from sticking to the foil. So The vegetables are now in, and now for the magic part. It's not magic. I have got this grate which is gonna separate the liquid from the flank. You don't wanna sit your flank directly on top of the stock, which is gonna actually be nearly boiling, because it's gonna boil the meat and it's not gonna be a great experience. So first thing I'm gonna do is, before adding this, I'm gonna add a little bit of salt to the vegetables. And don't go overboard with the salt. And I've got my fresh garlic. I'm gonna add these in whole. I haven't added the ones I've peeled because they're gonna go on top of the meat. Now that you've put your vegetables in the dish, you take your grate and you sit it on top. And this is for the important part. So there's two sides to the flank, as you know. I want you to sit it on the side that has the most fat. So the fat is going to go bottom down, not top up. So what you should see on the top is a thin layer of membrane, and then the fat is going to remain on the bottom. Now once you're done, you're going to take your liquid and you're going to pour it all between the vegetables. Now I'm done. I'm going to briefly let that sit for a few minutes. I'm going to dice up my garlic and I'm going to put it on top with my fresh rosemary. Okay guys, so I've put my diced garlic on top of the membrane. The membrane side is up, and I've added in some fresh rosemary. And now the hard part is take your aluminium foil and cover the whole flank, the whole vacio, with foil. So you're basically gonna create a capsule so the humidity can't leave. But remember, the humidity is obviously not in touch directly with the meat, so that's gonna stop it from boiling. So the flank, the vacio, is now completely wrapped up, and I'm just gonna quickly recap on some of the key aspects to making sure this is right. First of all, you need to create humidity. So you can use water with some stock, you can even use red wine or beer if you want, whatever you would like to create humidity. That needs to happen. Second is make sure your vegetables are cut up and aren't too small, if not they're just gonna disintegrate. Then make sure that the meat is not in contact with the liquid. And then last of all, make sure that you wrap your flank or your vacio completely. And a very important part to this is don't forget to use a binder as olive oil or ghee or butter, and then apply your salt to your meat after you've applied the binder. Those are the key techniques to making sure this is gonna taste incredible, and also gonna be pretty straightforward for you to put together in the kitchen. Okay guys, so I've just put it in the oven, and you want to set your alarm for around 2 hours and 30 minutes. Now you might better bring it out at 2 hours, but ideally 2 hours and 30 minutes, it will be incredibly tasty, really tender and extremely moist. Now the temperature I've set my oven at is 170 degrees Celsius. Now you can play with those different variables, the time and the heat, but I've, from experience, 170 degrees Celsius for around 2 hours and 15, 2 hours and 30 will be absolutely perfecto. Good food means good wine. And good wine means good wine etiquette. And good wine etiquette means a good experience, my friend. Okay, so it's been 2 hours and 15 minutes, and it is time to take off the flank or the vacio. And it has been in the oven for a good amount of time, so it should be extremely succulent, tender, tasty, and very juicy. So let's go and get it from the oven. Okay guys, so I've just taken out the oven, it's piping hot, and the first thing we're gonna do is take off the aluminium foil, and then we're gonna let it rest for like 5 or 10 minutes. Then we're gonna cover it up, and we're gonna get all the vegetables that have been grilled underneath the flank or the vacio. Okay guys, so I've let it rest for a few minutes, I've taken off the foil, and as you can see, all of these vegetables are perfectly marinated in the juices and have been grilling along with the flank or the vacio. So what I'm gonna do is, first thing I'm gonna do is take off the cooked fresh rosemary, and then I am going to take it off this grill that we've used, which has really separated it from the moisture from the liquid, which has stopped it from boiling, which is really advantageous when it comes to cooking meat in the oven, especially in an electric oven or a gas oven. Okay guys, so I'm gonna start carving it up. I've let it rest for a few minutes. The more you can let it rest, the better it's gonna taste. So here goes. So it's extremely tender, and it is just filled with juice. You can just see the juice just running through the fibers, and I'm cutting directly against the fiber. So as you can see, it's extremely juicy, it's just falling apart. I can just pull the meat, as you can see, I can just pull the meat apart. And the reason is because we allowed it to have humidity and moisture during the cooking process. So all of these vegetables we can eat now and we can enjoy this meat.